Let's take a look at this label layout in preview mode. We'll go to the view menu and choose preview mode. And what we want to do is count the number of labels. So let's go ahead and zoom out. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rows. We have the proper number of rows, but it's possible you may not get the proper number of rows. You may lose the last row here. And that has to do generally with your printer. If your printer doesn't support small margins like mine does, because it's a laser printer, if you have, let's say, an inkjet printer that has half-inch margins all the way around, you may lose this last row. And then you'll need to understand how to tweak the label layout to make it really work so you don't lose that last row of labels. So we're going to show you how this label layout is put together. In fact, after you're done watching, you really should probably build this label layout from scratch. It'll really help you understand how layouts work. So let's go back to layout mode. And what we're going to do is take a look at how this is put together. First of all, you'll see that there are columns right here. And you can actually resize these columns if you want by dragging these little items. If you get your very tip of your mouse on there and click and hold down, you'll see that you can move it either way you want. I'm not going to move them right now because they're in a perfect spot. But you could move them back and forth and make your columns change. You could also come in here into Layout Setup under the printing and decide whether you want it in 3 or 2 columns if you want it, and whether you want to cross or down first. All depends on what you're looking for, and in fact we'll find out that a cross and down first actually make a difference in terms of other things when you're doing things like sub-summaries and things like that. It won't make a difference here. You won't really notice a difference other than the labels print this way first, and they go all the way down the column in this situation. You also have your fixed page margins, and you may need to adjust these as well. Now realize this is in pixels right now because of what we have set up in our inspector. If we come in here and go to the position tab, and there are other ways to change this, but I find this the easiest way. We switch it to inches or centimeters or whatever you want, and then go to Layout Setup. It'll then show you inches. So make sure if you go, wow, I don't know what's a pixel, make sure you have your inspector set up the way you want it. So that's about your columns, and you can change these around all you want. But likely if you have a problem with your label printout, missing that last row, it has to do with your header and your body. So if you're missing that row, or possibly there's another situation, maybe you're slowly drifting down or drifting up so that maybe eventually the last label row is off the label, or even the 9th one or the 8th one. If you've got drifting going on and you want to try to adjust that, that has to do with the body part and the header part also. So let's cover that, and it really helps out if you have the inspector showing with the position tab showing. What we're going to do is click on the header here, and you'll see that we can display what the settings are. It's 0.319 inches. So if you want to make sure that your first row is in the right spot, because that's where you start by fixing these problems, get the first row right, because if the first row isn't right, well, then you have a lot of problems. So you can adjust your header so that the first row goes in the right spot. But before you do that, you may want to check your body part. Is it the right height? Well, this is 1 inch, and that's exactly what an Avery is, so that's probably correct. So if it's not correct on the first label, it could be that you don't have your header correct. Or it's also possible that you don't have this in the center. It all depends on a lot of factors. You have to look at all these different things. Once you get that first row of labels correct, printing out, and by the way, I recommend printing to a piece of paper and holding it up to your labels in the light so you can see whether they're on there or not. That's the best way rather than wasting all those expensive labels. So once you've got that first row right, then you could have drifting down or drifting up. And likely if you're missing the row at the bottom, then you're drifting down. So if you're drifting down, that means your body part is too big and you need to adjust it. All you have to do is click on it and go ahead and change it here, and that'll allow you to get very specific detailed measurements put in there. Or if you're feeling lucky, you can just go ahead and show this and drag it down a little bit. Now if you're drifting up so that they're going up towards the top of the label as you go down the page, well, then your body part's too big. You want to make it bigger so that they don't drift up. So those are the basic ideas behind fixing these label layouts or creating them, or whatever might happen. Maybe you accidentally move the body and go, oh, whoops, I forgot what I did. You may have to tweak it there. So learn how to do this stuff, because you don't want to always have to rely on those wizards and those assistants. If you know how to do it, you can make things happen. If you know the details, the nuts and bolts, you really can make FileMaker sing.